In today's video, I'm going to be showing you the two best ways to build a new $500 gaming PC. Just like always, the first one is going to be all about pure performance, and the second one is all about aesthetics, both with proper upgrade paths. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to Zach's Tech Turf. I hope you're all staying safe out there, and especially at home. Maybe you have time to build yourself a new gaming PC, maybe a $500 PC. If you do, then this video is for you. And if you're new here and you want to see other gaming PC build guide videos just like this one, then hit the subscribe button down below and also that notification bell. That way you never miss an episode. But yeah, let's check out these builds. Starting off with our pure performance build, which I know most of you are into, even though it doesn't look baller like most of my builds. The CPU that we're going with today is everyone's favorite Ryzen 5 1600 AF. This newer version of the 1600 is actually the newer 12nm 2600, but slightly lower clocked, and it's providing an absolute market disrupting price to performance ratio. At $85, this CPU is ruining some of the budget builds that I have planned and some of the budget builds that I'm trying to plan. I just can't recommend any $60 to $80 CPU right now, because you might as well just spend the few extra bucks and get the Ryzen 5 1600 AF at $85. Next up, we get to our motherboard, and now this choice I'm not entirely happy with, but we are very limited with our options on the market with the current world events happening around us. This is the ASRock B450M HDV R4.0, which is currently sitting at $65. This motherboard is the only one that I could find for less than $75 at the time of making this video. It'll work perfectly fine, but there's also 2 RAM slots, so you will not be able to upgrade your RAM without completely replacing your kit. Speaking of which, I went with this 2x8GB Gel Evo Potenza kit, which is clocked at 3200 MHz for $78. Just a few months ago, we were finding some really nice RAM kits at 16GB for like $50 to $55, but with the current market prices being absolutely terrible right now, we just don't have that many options, and it's even hard to get some of the normal products that we were buying just shipped to our door. Moving on to our storage, once again, because the prices are way higher than normal, I actually went with the usually expensive Western Digital Blue 500GB SSD. This SSD is usually way more expensive than the other budget drives, but right now at $65, that's about where most of the cheaper ones are sitting. Getting into the graphics card, for this $500 pure performance build, I was able to squeeze out an 8GB XFX RX 570, and there were actually a decent amount of options available at this $145 price range. Feel free to go with any RX 570 8GB model that you can get your hands on. You probably don't have a super strict $500 budget like I do, but I even found a single RX 580 model, but I don't like to include those crazy promos and deals in these type of videos. Getting towards the end here, we have our power supply. Just like normal, I went with a simple and ugly ketchup and mustard cabled EVGA 500 watt 80 plus certified unit. Nothing special here. Finally, our last part for the build is the case, and here I'm going with the model that I actually just purchased during one of my recent live streams. Yep, that's me streaming on Twitch buying an entire PC, and you should totally be following me over there. This here is the DIY PC S07BK. It's currently sitting at $30 on Newegg. Hopefully it's still around that price at the time you're watching this video, and it's actually super clean with an acrylic side panel and a nice mesh front for airflow, so I think this is a great fit. Now this model doesn't come with any fans except for an 80mm exhaust fan, so you're gonna have to scrounge up some 120mm fans to use as an intake, but I have a feeling that a lot of you have these extra fans laying around your house or your studio or whatever. The actual chat, like, what am I missing? There it goes. Goes. So you should be good to go. And with that being said, that's going to conclude our $500 power build, and here's the entire parts list. At the time of making this video, the total comes out to $503, but once again, please just be aware that we aren't seeing normal prices these days, so we aren't getting as much power out of a build as we normally could a couple of months ago. Before moving on to our $500 beauty build, let's quickly talk about the upgrade path and what I would do if I just bought this $500 gaming PC and I wanted to upgrade it a couple of months down the line. First up is the graphics card. If you're strictly worried about gaming, the Ryzen 5 1600 AF CPU can certainly handle a much beefier graphics card, so I would recommend something like an RTX 2060 Super or even an RX 5700. After that, I would probably upgrade the storage and either throw in a 1TB SSD for your game library, or you can even buy a cheap 1TB HDD if you just want to store some media. And finally, if you do want more processing cores for something like streaming or video editing, I would recommend upgrading to a Ryzen 7. You can find some really nice deals on 2700Xs, but it'll be up up to you on how much you can spend, but we are in the AM4 motherboard, so you should be good to go. All right, so now it's time for our $500 beauty build, and this here is always my personal favorite, but I know I'm in the minority on that one because you guys love your pure performance builds. But just know that if I'm gonna spend $500 on a PC, I personally want it to look nice on my desk, but you're gonna take a hit in performance as expected. Starting with the CPU and motherboard, I actually went with the exact same options as the power build because they're just such great options in terms of bang for your buck: the Ryzen 5 1600AF and the ASRock B450M HDV R4.0. For RAM, I did switch things up to go along with our aesthetics, and this is the Team T-Force Delta RGB 2x8GB kit clocked at 3000 MHz. This is obviously RGB, so you can make it whatever color you want, but you'll see in the next few parts what color scheme I'm gonna go with. Not part of our color scheme, however, is the SSD. We'll hide that someplace we can't see it. This here is the Patriot Burst 480GB SSD. This isn't actually the best SSD out there. It's not bad. I actually had this in a $700 pre-built that I reviewed a couple of months ago, but like I said, the SSD market isn't where it normally is, and this is about as cheap as it gets right now for $55. All right, so now getting into our color scheme for the aesthetic build. For the graphics card, I have the Gigabyte RX 570. This is only the 4GB model because it's literally the only 570 that I could afford in this build, but this represents what theme we're going for, mostly black with a hint of orange. For our power supply, we spent a little bit more on this one compared to the power build. This is the EVGA BR 600 watt bronze certified PSU, and we spent a little more on this because it has all black cables and will look a bit cleaner. For our case, I actually went with the exact same one that I went with the power build, the DIY PC S07. I just think it looks super clean, like I said, especially for $30, and it's actually arriving right now, so let's check it out with some B-roll. And finally, to tie this aesthetic build all together, of course we had to go with some RGB fans, and I decided to go with the Up Here RGB 120mm 5-pack, and for $30, this is going to completely transform what this build looks like. Shout out to Demon Mint in our Discord server for recommending these. That link is down in the description, by the way. At $30, they have really high reviews, and I'll definitely be featuring these in an upcoming build guide very soon. So with all those parts out of the way, here's what the entire list is looking like, and at the time of making this video, we went slightly over our budget at $515, but I think it's still safe to say that this is a $500 gaming PC, right? So for the upgrade path of the beauty build, it's gonna be pretty much the exact same as the power build. If you want more processing power, you're gonna wanna upgrade your CPU first. If you want more gaming power, you're most likely gonna wanna just upgrade your graphics card first. And then after both of those upgrades, I would probably upgrade your storage to get a little bit more than 500 gigabytes. Also, while we're talking upgrades, the ASRock B450M HDV obviously could use an upgrade if you really want to. You're not gonna get a ton of new performance out of a better motherboard except for better VRMs if you want to overclock, but if you do want a board that can maybe handle 4 RAM slots or PCIe 4.0 so you can use one of those super fast SSDs, maybe you upgrade to an X570 board down the line. Well, that's gonna wrap up my 2 ways to build a $500 gaming PC. As always, drop a comment down below about what changes you would make to either of those systems, and after that, feel free to head on over to one of these 2 videos if you haven't seen them yet. Definitely hit that subscribe button, and make sure you're following me over on Twitch because I have some more PC building live streams coming up very soon.